prosumer as opposed to consumer, there's the passive absorption of clutter, but there's also the production mania of making clutter. This is the collaboration of making wealth. Everybody's helping to make this abundant wealth I was talking about in the last video. And so prosumer is productive mania, the making of clutter, not only the receiving of clutter. So think of it as a two-way situation.
Yes, but you always said the RNF drops heal you from this quadrophenic state.
The stability. We actually stabilize the hydrogen isotope. It's technically H197. And an isotope, by definition, is unstable. Well, our iCell and the accompanying effects creates a supersugar that stabilizes the H197, which has not ever happened before. And that becomes very exciting, and it does stabilize the users of our product.
Yeah, talking about the prosumer, you always said artists see what's coming and they start showing the hidden ground, the new environment. But now everybody is it's an artist, so it's like everybody somehow is translating this new power, as you called it, the pharaoh power of programming the environment.
Yes, so it's cliche to be an artist in many fields, like a bus driver, an athlete, a broker, a manager of a abandoned Nazi airport. All these roles require so many new situations with everybody's five stomachs interacting that everybody's forced to be on their toes and sort of trying to notice the bigger pattern no matter what they're doing, like the traditional role of the Gutenbergian artist. And so when we say that everybody is forced to be like an artist, they don't have to be an artist. Matter of fact, anybody gets credit for maintaining an ecology in their own profession, their own specialty. So the traditional role of the artist is providing an environment on this whole situation, which should stabilize you, if you understand it, for coming effects. That requires a new kind of communication, which we have come up with here in iONic. We have solved the problem of how to be, or to retrieve, the ecological role of what was called the artist. And it's not being an artist in the traditional way. It's not engaging in creativity for the sake of productive mania. We offer a ecological stabilization with our products, Remag and RNA drops and others. And we also are going to stabilize the world economy with our cold fusion box, or what we call cold play. So we are a stabilizing function in this quadrophenia. That is what's required today. Not a stabilizing based on conservative ideology or on an anarchist ideology or non-ideology or leftist or liberal or neoliberal. None of those chemical body nostrums meet the needs. You have to become a new environment to stabilize this situation, and we have come up with this new kind of alchemy that does provide, miraculously, a stabilizing new environment that is required in our time. And I reiterate this, it is quite fantastic what we're doing, and you appreciate it. You seem to be able to see what it's doing, but there's serious blocking by people about it because they've gotten so used to the destabilized quadrophenic situation. In simple terms, they love change for change's sake, that they're not interested in something that actually could stabilize them, or at least they're not able to maintain an interest for very long. the quadrophenia sets in, and then they lose their focus, and they're into responding to where their quadrophenia has taken them, and they've forgotten about the appeal of the stabilizer. So, what is it the Marble Man says? Come and taste the flavor, or come and where is the flavor?
Come to where the flavor is. Come to McLuhan County.
Yeah, so we are altering the frequency of the environment, which creates a new kind of flavor process. So yes, we can apply that line. We are saying come to the flavor, but it's not a consumable flavor. It is an environment.
Tonality.
It's a tonality, right?
Yeah.
The tonality that the drops in our products
come to where the tonality is.
Yeah, come to where the drummers were. Come to where your grandchildren are. The grandchildren got there first. Marble Man, I think the Churchill family was the Marlborough family. So there's a heavy British aristocracy embedded in that. And we're going to have to come up with a better image of oligarchy than British sourced. So I guess we would fall back on the idea of the Subdeani. Not the Subgenius, but the Subdeani, which is recognizing Dr. Carolyn Dean and her contribution to the stabilizing process. The gospel of
Eminem.
Eminem. Yeah, how can I adapt Eminem to that? Multiple myths. No. Multiple myths. Mythic management. Mythic management. Mythic management, that's tetrad management. Mythic management is done through your stomachs. Self-management, co-collaborating management, taking full advantage of your four stomachs and learning how to profit. Well, I don't like that word. Learning how to consume and produce with your stomachs. But this sounds like the last tape, so let's try to get into some new talk. Have you got some things that you want to say about the gospel of Marble Man?
Yes, because the study of the gospel of Marble Man is actually the gospel sung by all media. And
yes.
I was reading our friend Janine Masha.
Janine Masha.
Yeah,
York University in Toronto.
Her book on Marshall McLuhan. And she says McLuhan's work is distinguished by an interest in the corporeal aspect of communication. He was just as interested in poetry and he was in consciousness, perception, and the cognitive sciences. In fact, aesthetic, rhetorical form and perception are inseparable in any examination of the media. And I think that's what you are doing when you are explaining all these bodies and all the digestion in the different stomachs of the different bodies. Because yes. We could change the words and we will say you are interested in media, not only the corporeal aspects of communication, but in all the bodies.
Not non-corporeal.
The non-corporeal, and not in consciousness, but in what Ian calls recollected lucidity.
Yes.
And the perception, the archetypes, the myths, the cognitive sciences, and we see how this Pandora box is actually telling us who we really are, and for example how our body really works and how it interacts with the non-physical, which is something we are still learning.
McLuhan emphasized the corporeal, or the sensory matrix, as we came out of the Gutenberg galaxy, which had abstracted people's Western sensibilities into an abstract disregard for the other senses or the other densely embedded parts of the corporate body, the multi-sensory level. And so as he got ahead of the leading edge and advocated the sensory corporality in media, it was startling to people who were a bit phased behind and were still in an abstract level. So you had this wave created in the 60s of people retrieving the chemical body in its multiple sensory modes. And this was expressed by what McLuhan called the Lourdes, L-O-U-R-D-E-S, of the Esalen Institute, organized by Michael Murphy out in Big Sur, California. And McLuhan used to mock what was going on there, because McLuhan said the retrieval of the corporeal and the emphasis on it was an effect of the newly discarnate electronic superangelization of one's being. So it's not that McLuhan, as Janine says, is emphasizing the corporeal. He's pointing out that the corporeal is going to be noticed when we go discarnate, when we enhance the tactility. So we'll start noticing all the old sensory modalities and their extensions, and that would be the wealth, the boom in the economy that started with the 60s, where every sense, now a mythic stage, could experience a Baroque spiral of expression. So it's the warning that McLuhan gives about where this would lead. And later, when the Android was retrieved in the 90s, people became aware of the corporeal clutter in their multitasking, multisensory being and multi-stomach life, though they weren't too aware of the multi-stomach, but they were living it. Then they started to emphasize McLuhan's emphasis on the disservices of this corporeal situation, multiple corporeal. And that left McLuhan stranded in a negative defensive position, because media ecology, as defined by him, that where you would turn off TV would not work anymore. You couldn't turn off the Android meme and take it on a being of its own. So that left it for me and my colleagues to come in with the same thing I said 10 minutes ago. I have to repeat myself?
We are in a replay.
What I said.
This is all a replay. It has been already record.
I'm responding to the past blue perfect of Janine's writing. For people who weren't aware of what the situation was for McLuhan, her book can be startlingly original. For people who thought McLuhan was, I don't know, an old professor of Ed Sullivan or some Bonanza TV shows of Batman. That's one thing that's interesting in remembering McLuhan, is that people don't know how far he went in his work. We have recordings where he's talking about the change in our blood corpuscles, the change in the blood. And that is exactly what iON is about, the change in the blood that we bring in. So here's McLuhan tuning in to what Ion's going to do. I don't know how he did it, but accidentally, or he anticipated me as the Harold Bloom tradition says, in the influence of anxiety, the anxiety of influence, there could have been that connection. That's enough.
Yes, Ian always says our power is in our words, in our utterings. And I think that something you are adding in your very special median ecology, as Ian calls it, is the hybrid of not only the hardware media, but also like in the case of studying the new effects of the chemistry with the non-physical, you're also going into the field of medias, and for example how the electric dissolve the Guff and the effects of media in other aspects that were never considered.
That's right. Let's see what you just said there. Well, could you repeat?
Yes, I said
what you said just a minute ago, about a minute back. What were the words you were saying?
Yes, that you are not only studying, for example, the effects of media in society, like McLuhan, but you're going beyond, because you're seeing other effects of media in the electric environment in aspects that were not considered ever, like the
effect on the Guff.
The effect on the Guff and other things that are affecting the environment in a major scale.
Mm. I pointed out, 25 years ago, that the technologies took on a life of their own, and they became the agents of media ecology. And as they communicated among their machinic parts, you could see the tetratic process happening right in front of you in this Android meme. And that is what the McLuhan revival was in the 90s, was the Android meme celebrating McLuhan and using McLuhan's ideas for itself, and not for a promotion of McLuhan or a promotion of chemical body consumption of McLuhan. It was a process where the Android meme looked around and said, well, the best creators and media ecologists in this situation are people like Frank Zappa, Lyndon LaRouche, Mae Brussel, Dr. Beater, Arthur Croker, William Irwin Thompson, Krishnamurti, Cosmic Awareness, of course Dobbstown, and played it back to itself. And many people, including Janine, got caught up in this enthusiasm for McLuhan and felt the need to explain or clarify it. And so they end up just being appendages of the Android meme, which was going to celebrate it in its own way. Well, little did anybody realize that the actual aspects that the Android meme was celebrating was the iONic aspects of McLuhan, Zappa, and all, and Phineas Wake. The iONic aspects were embedded in these creators' work. And that's what Frank is singing about when he says the return of the son of Monster Magnet. I turned out to be the monster magnet attracting the ionic levels of all these accomplishments in the 20th century. And that just, like a pimple, just had to burst. And it obliterated the Guff, and the Guff came forth to speak. And this is the incredible alchemy that leads to this new environment that stabilizes through supersugar in the eye cell. And for the record, supersugar is carbon 122, hydrogen 197, and oxygen 98.5. Again, I said this in the last video, we're struggling here to find a new thing to say, other than Janine is the butt of the day, the one that whose work, unfortunately, we are providing a past blue perfect retrospective on it. And I challenge all the people who've written on McLuhan to become aware of what we're doing here in the actual present. Sorry, I had to get polemical.
No, it's super. I think what you're doing is reopening the Pandora Box. Nobody dared to do that. And listen to what nobody wanted to listen or acknowledge, like
right.
the evergreens and the non-physical.
Yeah, this is really important. It traditionally was astral body realities and entities and phenomena, and I found the best in that world, and they were in retrospect predicting what I was going to do. And when ion showed up, it seemed to be a channeled entity at first, but through the years we realized this ion thing is capable of creating any kind of environment and communicating through any environment, and does do that. So there is a whole new dimension of the images of the astral body that ion has brought in. And I challenge those gurus in those worlds, from the Dalai Lama to Alan Steinfeld, and all those in between, David Wilcox, Jay Wiedner, don't know if I have some of their names exactly right, to take a look at this and recognize it's not what you think it is. It's not traditional channeling. And then recognize what we've made. So I challenge those in the astral stomach. So I'm challenging the chemical body stomach. That would be the white host. I'm challenging the astral body stomach, those that I just mentioned. I'm challenging the TV body stomach. That would be Jon Stewart and Stephen Colbert. And I'm challenging the chip body stomach. That would be Bill Gates, Jaron Lanier, Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs still around. He's actually hanging out at JW's place. That's a story for all of you. And who else could we name? Whoever got a gig, whatever 15-year-old got a gig on YouTube and is attracting attention. We'll challenge them to look at this situation that we've created here. It's quite exciting.
Yes, and another thing that I think is really amazing is you're not only like a stenographer saying this is the word, this is what
That's
they told
what I
me.
want to talk about. That's what
It's a dialogue.
Yes, it's a dialogue, but I wanted to, this is what I was trying to remember. You quoted Ion saying that we have our word power. We can express our sovereignty and our producer mania with the power of our words. Well, what we have to realize today is that the words no longer have tonality stomachs. They have the other body stomachs. The word is made up of the other bodies now, so that you don't have to use your mouth to create new worlds today. You just can type, or whatever other media you use in your mythic stage. So we have a revolution in, and a mutation and transformation in what the word is. Not diminishing the power of your mouth, but people are communicating and creating with their automobiles, with their selfies, with their stock investments. Everything, it comes under the category, and this is what McLuhan realized, of being a word. So when I asked us to develop our word power, our expressive sovereignty through words, you must include the other environments in word. That's what I wanted to say 7.5 minutes ago.
Yes, and thinking about the Marlboro Man and the archetypes, it's like, what would you say about this nonverbal communication with images that are also used in ads, because they said that the prosumer is filling with the meaning, and these visuals are more expressive than words. Is the archetype is expressing much more, communicating much more to the people than what they could say in a slogan.
Yes. I use the word archetype in my tiny note chart. You'll see the phrase homeopathic cliché probes in the tiny note chart, but in the larger chart, what I call the Dobbs formula chart, you'll see the word archetype all over it. And archetype and cliché flip back and forth. That's the way it was before we got into the Android meme. But once we started to unfold the Android meme over the last 40 years, you have the interplay and the shrinking of the archetype and the cliché. So psychology has come to the point now to recognize that Jung's archetypes don't meet the needs of the average prosumer today, who has images like from Disney or from Squidbillies or whatever TV consumption landscape they engaged as a child. That is a big part of their chemical body's subconscious. And that is a mythic subconscious, a collection, a grab bag of effects. So when we talk about the word image or the word archetype, I think that is not enough. You have to point out the homeopathic process of the interaction of cliché and archetype, which is McLuhan's definition of consciousness, the interplay of cliché and archetype. But it is also being done not by humans, but by the Android meme. So you're asking me to say, are the images and archetypes more powerful than the word? If you're talking about in relation to the chemical body, no communication going on there. The Android meme is not talking to the chemical body. The archetypes are environments of experience and sensation. So when one watches television, it's a ritual of engaging these homeopathic environments, which flip from being cliché probes to stabilizing archetypes. So we can't even use the terms image and word for the environmental process that has become archetypal. Staying alive is an archetypal process now. And the more you're aware of the different bodies you're made up of and the different stomachs, the more likely you will not be suicided. You will be able to handle the new definition of wealth and the new definition of health. So as I would say, congratulations, colleague, you have brought us to a new point in your wandering around looking for patterns. We now have a new way to describe what we said last time about health and wealth. The archetype is an apparatus. It's not an image. It's not a verbalization. It is the environments we wear, and that is another meaning for myth. Mythic stage, a myth is an archetypal process. My colleague is inspired to say something. I will see what it is.
Yes, I'm just like, wow, archetypes are environments. Oh.
Yes.
Yeah,
and that's what McLuhan realized.
Ion always says we want what we know, and so we want these archetypes, these environments we knew. And yes, maybe that's why we're doing this replay of archetypes and myths. And Ion goes back to the revelations and to the emerald tablets and
to the original archetypes.
Yeah, it's like the mind
to retrieve
of environments we are retrieving to go back to
when
the
you
knowing.
When you retrieve the archetype, it becomes a new cliche. And when you obsolesce the new cliche, it becomes an archetype. So McLuhan expresses in his book From Cliche to Archetype that Northrop Frye is limiting his awareness of archetype to the content of the Gutenberg galaxy. And McLuhan's saying whole environments are now archetypal. He considered this his new updating of the symbolists. He writes about this in The War and Peace of Gold Village, the new symbolism. Well, where environments become symbolic. So when he presented the 27 media in Understanding Media, that was 27 archetypal environments. And he was aware of this at the time because he's writing letters to Wilfred Watson and preparing his book, Cliché From Cliché to Archetype, since the early 60s, before Understanding Media came out. And now I've developed that into the homeopathic, the hologram being shrunk to homeopathic purposes. McLuhan uses the term homeopathic back in the 50s, referring to the means of Hollywood. Anyway, so you have the homeopathic archetypal cliché probe process is the definition of my chart. I haven't had much opportunity to explain that. Those titles are in the chart, so thank you for emphasizing the words archetype, myth, and imagery, because it is important to understand that the environments are now mythic processes and archetypal, flipping back into cliché probes, and it's that process that's run its course over the last 30, 40 years. That has ended. And so the original cliché probe, the original archetype known as the Guff, has come forth to present its art form that we created, humanity in general created, and that's why his use of the term ion, which is a cliché probe term now in subatomic physics. People have been telling me the past few days that they see the word ion all over the place. There are different companies that use it. So it's already got an archetypal status. So it mixes cliché probe in quantum physics to archetypal use in business brands. And then again, that reminds us that Ion's got his tongue on the pulse of the situation because he appropriately called himself Ion. And the image just flashed there when I said that. Yes. Screen just flashed. So we have, Ion came in talking to me saying, we are source energy. Doesn't use that term too much now, but back in the early days, we are source energy, we are the original, and the only thing that works. So it's the only archetypal environment that really gets you to square off with the real purposes of your being, which is to stay in the physical in an expanded sense. And so this archetypal momentum is what Ion started.
Yes, and as you say, for example, the Guff is no more, and we now know that we don't need energy, we emanate energy. And
that's prosuming.
Yes, and I think it's interesting now that you're talking about archetypes that with the Android meme, this archetype of the Illuminati, of us becoming the light, became also a very important meme, and all these conspiracies and all this talking about these archetypes.
Yeah. Well, there's a very important point that McLuhan makes. We've posted the review of Hugh Kenner's book on Wyndham Lewis. This review by McLuhan's called Nihilism Exposed. And he spells out the important role of Wyndham Lewis in showing the angelic archetypal nature of the entertainment industry. Now, there's another review where McLuhan points out that the Gnostic tradition of the inner light as some kind of liberation or transcendence was confused by the printing press, because people had this new experience of the printed book, and they would find the light coming out of the book, and it was intertwined with the printing presses that made the currencies and the central banking, and much of the imperialism of the Gutenberg era was coming out of the agency of light, the book. So that the mystics and the Gnostics weren't sure where their loyalties should be in obeisance to the Gnostic tradition, because they saw it being aggrandized by the inner light of the printed book. And you'll see McLuhan in his letters making fun of the, he says, the Puritan left-wing devotion to the inner light. You saw the inner light become a cliche in the counterculture in the 60s. Now, the point is that that's a pretty incredible perception by McLuhan that the printing press was going to usurp the Gnostic dedication to the truth or the validity of the inner light or the inner voice, and would be hijacked. And we learned from Ion, this is what John the Revelator was pointing to in the book of Revelation. The very thing that McLuhan stumbled on was the reason the Christian archetype went all over the world, because Christianity was embedded in the printing press, or the first the phonetic alphabet. And then it goes into dominating religions all over the world, not in numerically. I mean, there are millions of Buddhists and millions of Hindus and millions of Muslims, and there are millions of Christians. But the point is that the Christian empire, through the printing press, was the hydraulic jack that propped up the global scourge of what they call white man, the anti-Mexican virus known as white man that caused so much pain and resentment over the last 100 years. That was embedded in the printing press, and that was the compromised role of Christianity. That's virus-like, you know, what Burroughs is saying in reference to Christianity. So here you have the new Pope is a problem about what to do with the archetype of Christianity in a situation where Ion is floating around, completing what the Christian process thought it was predicting or thought that it represented. So this article, it's some review that McLuhan wrote for Renaissance, the Catholic magazine, say the late 50s, 59, 60, almost the same time as Nihilism Exposed, where he points out the conflict for the celebrant of the inner light caused by the printing press. Now, if any of our fellow New Age radicals who go on about the inner light and the divine wisdom of the cosmic beaming understood what I was just saying, they get a whole new kind of insight that would require them to reevaluate how they speak about things. So when you talk about the emanation, the printing press made the eyeball passive. It became a receptacle for the light of the Lord, the light of the Creator. And the sudden flip when television came in to make your eyeball become a creator, an emanator, that change led to Ion's ideology, which is an ideology of responding to whoever it's talking to. It is an ad hoc response ideology that Ion provides to show the mind, to show the labyrinth of mind how to live in a quadrophenic environment by constant awareness of figure-ground interplay on many levels. So Ion is the treatment for the preference and nostalgia for the old archetypes, which are the old media.
Yes, I think that was a very good explanation of the symbol of the eye, the Illuminati eye. This,
yes.
That prevails during the fallen space.
Or did you want to say more about that?
Well, only that this paranoia about Illuminati symbols is also very popular in the Android meme.
Yes, that is nostalgia for the archetype of the printed press effect. I mean, McLuhan said that with the printing press, small groups could conspire between nations, operate in the banking interval in between. And that certainly is not the case anymore because the printing press is sitting on the sidelines. But the traditional image of the Illuminati was something studied in the 1920s and 30s, maybe even back to 1900, and led to the Nazis searching for the Illuminati. What we have today is the retrieval by the Endoramim of the obsession with the Illuminati archetype. And of course, the Endoramim does not stay with any particular archetype. It provides all of them. Any kind of cliché probe, the Endoramim will provide for us. So it is servicing those that think there is an Illuminati in the old sense that Hitler talked about, or Ezra Pound, but that's not the case. So again, we need a new image of the Illuminati as proffered by this new situation. And of course, you're looking at it. I am the new image of the Illuminati. This nice little face that you can enjoy talking to and appreciate the wisdom is the new image of the Illuminati. Not an eyeball. It's a happy, grinning face that the Church of Subdeanius made fun of. The man with the pipe. That's the marble man. Of course, that turned out to be my father, not me. I'm not using a pipe. But the thing is, you don't... remember when Charlie Sheen went ballistic about 4 years ago and complained about Hollywood and his career, and he tried to strike out on his own? Well, back then, I always was saying that the damn guy is complaining about me. He's complaining about the imploder process that I represent, the new kind of Illuminati. And you don't hear George Norrie or any of these people other than Reverend Stang complaining about that Deanie, up there in Canada named Bob Dobbs. You don't hear them noticing what I'm obviously presenting to everybody. I am that orange light on the top of the pyramid, traditionally the capstone, that iON designed for our first website, iONic.com. I'm the little glowing orange bulb that represents the capstone. But the capstone is not a pyramidal artifact like the Ark of the Covenant. It is an environment of inevitable success. That's Illuminati, inevitable success. So we welcome your responses to this commentary.
Well,
we don't have to end.
No, this is fascinating. How the pyramidion, the top of the pyramid, it's an environment. It's the anti-environment, the new art form.
For the old images.
This is something very new.
It is new.
For most.
I suspect that most people would project an anthropomorphic response to what I'm saying. I'm talking technically. I'm using words appropriately, intelligently, and scientifically to describe a process that's happening that I'm in the middle of. And it has nothing to do with my ego or my vanity. You do not want to be in my position. I'm the man on the hot seat. I'm the person that is got the microscopes up his butt by everybody. Everybody's trying to analyze me and figure me out. And I seem to be able to handle it, but it's not something that I would have asked for. Now, that's a bit hypocritical because I did ask for it and preparing for it for a long time, and now I'm stuck with this role of constant surveillance around me. But I tend to keep a stiff upper lip and a happy look on my face, a happy visage, so that people can feel that there is hope. Bob.
Well, because we were talking about archetypes, I was thinking, for me, the pyramids always representing this thing that we cannot explain. We never knew how they were built and what they really are, and the archetype of the pyramid is like the archetype of
the mystery body.
The mystery body and the power we have to program all the environment, like something the Nazis were trying to do.
Yes.
with the medias.
Yeah, and it's interesting that when Ian wanted to make a website, we let him lead on it, that he picked the pyramid. I wouldn't have picked the pyramid. I would have picked the sphere. The pyramid echoes too much of the old hierarchical situation, which is not happening in this new wealth and health situation. So I thought it very interesting that Ian wanted to retrieve that image. Now it makes total sense. And again, Ian was on the ball, leading edge, and doing something a little surprising. In some ways, it was an old-fashioned image to me, but not anymore. It is exactly the situation we're in. We are the temporary Illuminati. We are the top of the ladder in what we're offering. But what's different is that we're not hiding this fact. We're admitting it, and we're offering it to anybody whosoever will. That's different from the Illuminati in the past. They did not offer this information to anybody willy-nilly. They basically kept it secret. So we are here to expose the traditional habits of the Illuminati, and because we're doing it so articulately and informatively, we temporarily, like McLuhan's phrase, an ersatz anti-environment, ersatz, a fake anti-environment, have to adopt the pyramidal form for a little while, as you people learn to respond to the frequency and rebuild your own spheres. Rebuild your own spheres. Retrieve.
Yes, we were talking how what you say, the patterns you present, cause this burning of the belly because...
Burning in the belly. I was re-listening to the first part you made. Well,
yes,
it's Germany part 2.
It can
it's
be
burning in the belly.
Burning
in the belly.
Okay, sorry. Burning in the belly. In every language, prepositions are used different, so I get mixed up.
Yes.
So,
yeah,
your patterns create the burning in the belly, and it's sometimes hard to digest or to accept because it might be very shocking the first time you hear it.
I say it's shocking because it obsolesces the role you have, and then people want to have a new role in the new situation, a way to respond to it, and they don't see how they can invent a posture. It's like that famous poem by T.S. Eliot where he's saying, you know, what face should I adopt to meet the faces I'm going to meet today? We obsolesce people's natural perpetual motion. Once they have a role, they can get up in the morning and do their ablutions, go to work, come back, and it's a nice flow. If you disrupt that situation, you're going to get a negative response of feeling ripped off. So we are ripping off a lot of people's habitual roles in the information society, largely roles of how they present information. And that is understandable. The obliteration of the mind, and the mind doesn't know what to say next. It doesn't know how to create a situation that it can offer as an assailable function. So we are putting a lot of people out of work. Fortunately for them, they're ignoring us and carrying on with the retrievals, but it's not going to be allowed for much longer, as we're seeing right here today in Angela Merkel's office.
Yes, yesterday you invented a new word, the grammatical, and in your grammatical gospel, it's like a different type of reading the whole history, the whole medias, and the whole situation. That's really totally different, I think.
Well, I spent the day, while going to the beach today, I decided to memorize what's called the Gilbert schema to James Joyce's Ulysses. Yeah, it's a chart that James Joyce gave to somebody who passed it on to Stuart Gilbert, I think his name was, who wrote one of the early books on Joyce. This book came out about 1931. I think Joyce gave the chart to someone else in 1920, 1921, then eventually got to Stuart Gilbert, and then he published it. It goes into the symbolism, the archetypal meanings of each of the 18 chapters, the meaning of the Greek parallel to the Dublin parallels, the arts that are represented by each chapter, the technique of expression by each chapter, and the symbols. Plus which organ. It's James Joyce has the idea that media are extensions of our bodily senses and our bodily organs. He has that embedded right there in the chart. So I just wanted to tell people that I'm on the job. I'm remembering what should be remembered, and I have now memorized the schema for Ulysses. There's the other one by Mr. Lunati. He got a scheme from Joyce, which is a different one from James Joyce, and I'll be working on memorizing that over the next couple of days. So we will know that if the Joyce estate gets erased somehow by the cloud, we know that Bob will have the essence preserved in his little noggin.
Wonderful. I think we have enough for
we
today.
Have a wrap.
Yes. Or would you like to add something else?
No, I think that was wonderful. Me getting to brag about what I applied my long-term memory to.
The grammatical gospel.
Yes.
Of the Marlboro, the McLuhan back cowboy.
McLuhan Marlboro. M cube. Yeah. McLuhan, Merkel, Marlboro. McDeamy.
Yeah.
I hope your mother sees this video. It's a good one.
Yes. Yes, I like your vibe yesterday and today. You're like very energetic.
Yeah, very relaxed, basking in the glow of much success.
Wow. No, I have some revelations, like yesterday when you were saying we feed the mystery body, and today you say something that I always was like, wow, I don't remember anymore. The archetype in the environment, yeah. Wow.
You have thought about the word archetype through the years, right?
Yes, but never like this. That's why I say you are reading everything in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah, that's my purpose.